In 2002, Eileen Wuornos was executed after admitting she had killed 7 men in Florida. When first-time director Patty Jenkins decided to make a film about Eileen's life, she realized that casting would be crucial. After watching The Devil's Advocate on late-night television, she knew she had found her lead. Charlize Theron read the script and agreed to take on the role. Roger Ebert, the great film critic, called Theron's portrayal of Eileen Wuornos the performance of the year and the film of the year. I am pleased to have Patty Jenkins and Charlize Theron at this table. You said, as you sat down, what? Who would have believed?
Who would have thought, almost a year later, that the two of us would be sitting here with you talking about this movie?
And why did you say that?
Because...
Eliminating the me factor.
No. I think that the story, you know, for Patty to have sat down and actually wrote the story was, I think, a very personal experience, and I don't want to speak for her, but for me it was, the decision to do this was, you know, a very personal decision, and you just sometimes tap into something emotionally, and you realize that other people might not be tapping into the same thing, and you're prepared for that, you're okay with that, and that was definitely the case for me with this. So to have, you know, to be able to come here and talk about it and to hear the response and Roger Ebert and all of that stuff, it's been just amazing. Really just incredible.
Why did you do it in the first place?
For the money. You know what? I've been very happy with my career. I feel like I've been extremely blessed, and yeah. I'm not going to sit here and
you know, and a career ought to be about doing it all.
Yeah, you know, it's not because that I was unhappy or anything like that. I think that being an actor is like climbing mountains, you know. At some point you have to kind of face Everest, you know, and kind of see what your body can do and challenge yourself that way. And you know, I never ever thought that it would happen this way, where somebody like Patty would actually come to me and say, "You're the one. I want you to do this." All of that, just the material, this woman's life. She was so conflicted, and I find that, you know, there are not a lot of people who are willing to write women like that today. And Patty did such a great job in writing her in this very confronting way, which she was, you know, in a very truthful way. And I don't know. I think as an actor, it's not a risk, because it's an opportunity. Yeah. It's an opportunity to get your hands on something. Exactly, and to work with somebody who actually believes in you. You know. Why did you believe in her?
You know, it's a question that I will be answering for a long time. For whatever reason, it was like the most automatic thing. I mean, it wasn't the first thing that came to my mind, but
first.
I mean, it wasn't like, oh, who does these roles? Right. It wasn't like that, you know. Oh, of course. But the minute I took on this movie and I decided how I was going to do this movie, I was terrified of what actor could do this, because it's a performance film, it's a character film, you know, and the success of the movie rests completely on somebody's ability to pull it off. And more than anything, when I started looking out into the world, I was more concerned with the inner capability to go to where we needed to go and to do what we needed to do. Somebody who's done this before is kind of irrelevant. There are people who have played similar characters, but no one's played Eileen, and there haven't been very many female characters like this done. So it was a completely new thing. So when it came to finding someone who I thought had the strength to not be afraid to not shy away from the fact that she was this incredibly volatile person who crossed the line and did these incredibly horrible things, yet could also sell the vulnerability and the humanity of this person, that's a very wide area to cover. And a lot of the actors I thought of, I was pretty sure could land in one way or the other. I was familiar with Charlize's work. I had been blown away by her every single time, her commitment and presence in every movie. And I see tremendous strength in Charlize. I see tremendous talent, and I see like this great heart and intimacy. So I believed at the core she had what was necessary, and then how the person looks is, you know, is second. You can get there. That will come. But not everybody can you send for 2 months into Eileen Wuornos' life and be sturdy enough to do it.
For those who have not yet seen this movie, Monster, tell us who Eileen was and why her story was so compelling for you to tell.
I think Eileen Wuornos was a woman who was a prostitute from the age of 13, lived on the streets, homeless most of her life, had a horrible past, was abused and everything you can imagine, raped many, many times, who in 1989 had given up on men, had fallen in love with a woman, and was trying desperately to support that relationship when she was raped and potentially going to be killed, and she killed her John. And over the next year, in an effort to keep her girlfriend and not go back to the life she had before, she ended up killing 7 people, including him, in 1 year. What makes her story fascinating to me is I think there are a lot of people who are serial killer, you know, quote unquote serial killers. A lot of them actually are genetically off, chemically off, some sort of thrill to the kill. What was interesting about her is that there aren't a lot of opportunities in that genre to see a character arc of what was a normal, healthy human being get to a place like this. And her story was like a war story to me. It was much more like, you know, Full Metal Jacket. It's like sending a normal, healthy person into a series of circumstances and seeing where they end up. And it was just so rich with conflict to see her crying in the courtroom as her girlfriend testifies against her, and she's saying she did it for love, and she believes wholeheartedly that she was trying to do something good. I mean, it's just, just rich with so much emotion.
How did you prepare for it?
I did.
Who did you get to know?
I got to know everybody I could comfortably, and that I thought was relevant for, not comfortably, you know, but that I thought was relevant to this story. I didn't want to drag the victims' families into it. You know, I wasn't telling a story about them. I didn't want to drag people into it that it would be detrimental to them, you know. I got to know all of the people who she was friends with. I got to know Eileen to a certain extent. We were writing to each other, but we were in preparations to meet with each other when her execution was scheduled. And so that sort of blindsided us, and that kept that from happening. I got to know very well her best friend, Dawn Botkins, who's become a dear friend of ours and great supporter of the film. And then I got to know Eileen incredibly well through the letters the night before she was executed. She and Dawn had a conversation, and she decided to take a chance on our film and open up an archive of every letter she'd ever written over the 12 years she was on death row. And Charlize and I got to know her in a way I don't think we ever could have gotten to know her, sadly otherwise, by reading these thousands of letters.
And what did you find?
It's kind of like the movie, you know, and how Patty wrote that voiceover. You think you're going to find this big thing that's going to change everything for you, but then it's sometimes the thing that you least expect. It was the nuances. It was sitting in a house for 2 days on the floor, just covered from wall to wall with letters, and just hearing her voice. It was the small things. It was how she talked in this very detached fashion about these really traumatic things that had happened in her life that you can't even imagine. I mean, it just ripped your heart out. She talked about rape like she was ordering an ice cream cone. I mean, it was just the kind of thing
that happened. Yeah.
It was her life. It was her
got
reality.
raped.
Exactly. And the great thing that I think happened, and this is, you know, I'd never done this to this extent, this kind of research, and the thing that was incredible was that we did it together. There was never a day that I had to explain to Patty that, you know, I'm doing this because I had, you know.
She understood why you were doing it.
Yeah, we would drive home.
Because you were doing it for the same reason.
We were doing the same thing.
We were doing the exact, you know,
writing
for her to write
it were very similar.
Yeah, and we would drive home to our little Best Western motel, crying, and you know.
Where was it filmed? It was down in Florida.
In Florida, yeah, in a lot of the real places.
Near Orlando, or where was it?
A lot in Orlando and some in Daytona Beach, where it really happened.
Yeah, but this was in Michigan when we went to go read the letters.
Yeah,
and a lot of the script changes happened from reading the letters. So she was very articulate, just really such an eloquent writer. Great speller, just really smart, you know.
You come away from this, you come away from this experience, not the making the movie, but meeting this woman? Understanding her? What else?
Understanding was huge for me because I felt that was the most important thing that I had to get.
And what did you understand about her?
When you say somebody is a victim of circumstance, it's wide. You know, it could mean so many things. In her case, you think you know what it is until you really go and dive right into it, and then you start to realize that it's almost, Patty and I used to always say, you couldn't put it all into a movie because nobody would believe it. This woman's life was just, it's so hard to imagine. I think we all go through tragedies and we all have our, skeletons in our closets and we survive things. But what this woman survived was just unbelievable. So I left, I think to as much as I possibly could, trying to understand how she got to where she did in her life.
How she got to murder.
Yeah, how she crossed that line.
And what was her humanity? What was her what? I was going to say humanity, but what was it? It seems to me it's a contradiction, but how someone had been so terribly shaped by circumstances. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, there's this other side. And what is the other side? It is what?
The other side is
the love for this other woman.
Yeah. Yes.
And what does that say and show?
It says that this is what real human beings function like. I mean, it says, to a certain extent, it says, there but for the grace of God go all of us. Not to say that any of us would choose to kill 7 people. And that was her choice to a great extent. I don't take that away from a choice that she made at all.
Yeah.
And I was
and
very
should not be
passionate.
Yeah.
Should not be excused for that. No, but a classic tradition of storytelling, and one that I believe in very much, that for some reason we have taken a short vacation from in a lot of studio filmmaking, is the understanding of conflicted characters from Greek myth to Shakespeare. The story of, Macbeth, the story of good people in a series of events getting to a place where they do things that are unimaginable to us is endlessly fascinating to human beings.
Absolutely. Roll tape. Take a look at this. This is where Selby, the character played by Christina Ricci, asked Eileen why she stopped working as a prostitute. Remember, these are the 2 women we've been talking about. This conversation between them. Roll tape.
I love that scene. Why? I just think it's, of all the scenes, there's so many scenes that are telling. This scene I love because of the performance, because it's such a simple scene and her entire character is in that scene. Both of their entire characters are, I look at them and I know who they are. I do, not everyone. I have an emotional response to that performance.
It was a responsibility on both of your parts to do the following. Make sure that you got inside whatever it was, made this person, but also make sure that there was no acceptance of the brutality of what she did.
Oh, very much.
And how do you do that so that you make sure that no one comes and says, yes, I'm sympathetic to all the terrible things happening to this woman, but I'm more sympathetic to her victims than I am to her experience.
Yeah.
You have to look at the facts,
But I'm asking, how do you do it, and where is that in your own?
I'd love to take credit for it, but I feel that the script that Patty wrote had all of that in that. It was in Eileen's, it was in her life. It was there. It existed. I didn't have to go and manipulate anything to make that happen.
Just be true to the script and you were there.
That was our greatest, Patty and I constantly said whenever we started doubting anything, we just had to, and I went through that a lot. This woman's fazed by nothing. We're just.
No, I look like I'm fazed by nothing.
Constantly.
This woman's fazed by nothing.
By nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'm tough.
How do you compare this with every other movie experience you've had?
I can't.
Would you seem so, that this has had some huge impact on you because of its power?
I've been spoiled. This has spoiled me. I don't think I can go back to anything mediocre after this.
And you'll be more willing to take risk that you believe in.
Yeah, but again, it's not a risk for me.
Okay.
It's my job. It's what I do. Bring it on. I'm ready.
And did you believe that at the time when you entered this? Bring it on, I'm ready. No matter what you might think.
It took me some time to get there.
Because she talked about courage and endurance and
yes,
strength
but
and
I would
what else?
lie. I'd be lying if I said it just happened.
You got there.
I had to, and I got there because of her. I love the script.
Roll tape. This is where Eileen explains to Selby why she feels justified in committing the murder, a theme that we have been talking about. Here it is. Wow.
Oh.
Is this what both of you, even beyond expectation, hope to create? That's what makes it remarkable after this year.
I really, truly believe that, and it was partly why I wanted to step on as a producer, and I wouldn't have done that.
Make that point, because I hadn't brought that up, the fact that you stepped in with whatever the name of your two dogs were, production company.
Belittling my production company.
Producer, what is it?
Your Charlie Rose show.
What are the name of those two dogs?
Denver Delilah Films. Excuse me.
Is the name of your two dogs, is it not?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
so go on. That's a production company that stepped in to take...
Well, to co-produce it, but what I was going to say was that I really, truly felt that from the first time that I met Patty, that the two of us, for some reason, call it chemistry, call it two tough-ass chicks in a room, I don't know, call it whatever.
I like the latter, actually.
More fun.
I felt that we were definitely on the same page.
And we even made a deal. We made deals along those lines. We were like, here's what we're not doing, right? Here's what we are doing, right? Go.
And nobody needs to know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it took quite some time for everybody else to kind of realize what we were doing. And I think in a way that was good. I think we needed to kind of do that, go on that journey, and everybody else who came on board as far as the
but
actors.
how did that journey happen? Just because you're on the same page? Because...
I think that we both were thrown in the deep end and were really willing to swim. And, you know, talking about it the way we're talking about it right now, I don't want people to think that it was just this kind of smooth sailing thing, you know, it was...
You fought, you worked hard, you pushed and shoved and pushed back and...
Yeah, and I was sometimes very conflicted myself, you know.
Conflicted about what?
About not knowing if what I was doing it. You know,
was it or was
right, was good, was, you know.
What, the doing of it or the way you were doing it?
Both. No, not doing the film.
Yeah.
That I never doubted. It was just, it was a challenge, you know. There were many days that I the plus side of it is that it's great because I think the process of being a creative person is that it never stops.
Let me get to one last point here.
Yeah.
She was executed. You don't end there.
No.
Why not?
Because it's not, in any person's life, you know, you have to choose a period of time, and I feel that that's the correct thing to do. People's stories lend themselves to, this story was about what happened, like my story was a love story. It was about her last chance at living, which culminated in this series of murders. And in what's relevant to this story, her story was over the day her girlfriend testified against her in court. Truly, to me too. She was a shell of a human being. She had lost her reason for living. Forever after. She was reliving the horror of this year and a half for the rest of her life, over and over again. There was not... That's a different movie, you know, like the documentary covers that area of time.
Right.
And that's also what the news covered mostly. I mean, that's what everybody knows.
Yeah.
They know
there was a piece on 60 Minutes as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, everybody sees that, and they just take that. But nobody goes, well, what led up to this?
Monster is currently playing in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco opens wider Friday, January 9th. That's this week. Congratulations. Patty Jenkins. Charlize, great to see you.
Thank you. The same here.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.